A new exclusive report tonight on racism in real estate. Diving into the legacy of redlining in eastern Iowa, it spurred housing discrimination and amplified segregation across the country. And though it was banned in the late 60s, I explore in this special report how the lasting impacts are still felt in neighborhoods today.
Cedar Rapids' charm looked different for a young Tanya Marie Adams.
I just remember not seeing a lot of colored people of my color, people that could relate to a lot of experiences that I had gone through.
Reminiscing about the past, her youthful eyes and memories paint a picture of the city's changing face.
Definitely lack culture as far as like food and entertainment.
After decades living in a city where home values have soared since the 20th century, and her upbringing on the southeast side, Adams' eventual move to the northwest was quickly clouded by the federal government's redline maps.
Being a victim myself of redlining and being told no by 8 different banks, I would do exactly what they told me to do as far as cleaning up my credit and everything. They still would not lend to me.
That had to be frustrating.
It was. It was frustrating, and it was so frustrating that it almost made me give up. But I understood that I had an assignment, and I understood that I wanted to be a homeowner.
Here and in Cedar Rapids, right along the river here, is where you did have meatpacking plants, other manufacturing plants.
The African American Museum of Iowa's curator and collections manager, Felicity Wolf, has been researching these long-standing racial and economic segregation issues for years.
The red line was created around areas that they deemed undesirable. And part of the criteria that made them undesirable was the racial and ethnic makeup of the area, federal level or state level, or even a local government level. I mean, this was pervasive through all of those stages of government.
And that lingering legacy after nearly a century of those redlining maps can still be seen in our neighborhoods today. Take a look at your screen. These are 3 maps of cities in eastern Iowa. The first, a color-coded map of Cedar Rapids created in the 1930s. With the stroke of a red pen, the federal government decided these sections, which were home to mostly people of color and industrial areas, were hazardous, warning banks and lenders they weren't worthy of investment. It's followed by maps of Waterloo and Dubuque around the same time. The red areas got no subsidies or loans and higher interest rates, pushing investors and funding to those areas in green, predominantly white neighborhoods instead.
There was also physical barriers that they felt should be put in place. Physical walls dividing black and white neighborhoods in order to keep segregation occurring.
The Fair Housing Act made race-based redlining illegal, but it did little to help victims of discrimination.
So while then things would change over time, the Civil Rights Act, the Fair Housing Act kind of put all of that stuff to the side, but still through the decades that mindset was there.
Redlining became so institutionalized that while the physical line has been erased, the mental and social lines remained. Here's Iowa's 7 redline cities. Research from United Way of East Central Iowa shows from 2009 to 2019, white people made up more than 80% of the population in those redline cities, but just over 60% of arrests. African Americans made up only 8% of the population, but accounted for 30% of arrests. And as of 2017, out of the 3,000 Cedar Rapids businesses, only 3% were minority-owned. In Dubuque, only 5% of the 1,600 businesses were owned by minorities, and in Waterloo, 5% out of 1,300. Wolf believes there are some solutions that can work now.
Just to be in the neighborhood, to talk to these communities, to see what they would like to have, to spend some money into reinvesting in these neighborhoods in a way that is helpful for those who already live there. They want to live in a beautiful area. They want to live in a safe area. And how can everyone come together to make that happen?
For Adams, that's educating people about financial freedom and making home ownership more accessible to people living in these historically redlined areas.
Just to be able to provide individuals that have lower income or have been systematically pinned because of their race and culture. We're giving them an opportunity for low rents, affordable housing, clean affordable housing, and then we're turning them into homeowners.
Cedar Rapids leaders say that they've made investments in many parts of the city over time, and Dubuque City leaders say they've adopted some incentive programs to address some of the long-term effects of redlining. We'll have their full statements at iowasnewsnow.com.